The river in our story is the Okavango. One of Africa's great rivers, it has its origins in a dense network of tributaries in southeastern Angola, which merge to form the Cubango and Quito rivers. They in turn join to become the Okavango. As one narrow river, it flows through Namibia into Botswana, where it spreads across the landscape to form the Okavango Delta, the largest fresh wetland in southern Africa. This 15,000 square kilometer maze of lagoons, channels and islands is Africa's largest and most beautiful oasis. The habitat of thousands of mammals, birds, fish and other animals. It is unique. So unique, in fact, that it has been declared a wetland of international importance, a Ramsar site, the largest such site in the world. The Okavango pours 9.5 cubic kilometers of water into the delta each year. Water that is pure and clear. Few rivers in the world are as clean, largely because there are few minerals or clay particles in the sandy soil, and because nutrients are filtered out by plants in the floodplains along the rivers. Nutrients that do find their way downstream collect in the delta, making it highly productive biologically. The people in our story are the 600,000 fishermen, farmers, villagers and townspeople who live along the river. To them, it is the river of life. To most other people in Angola, Namibia and Botswana, it means little. Because the river is remote from centers of government and decision-making, the development of the river people has, for the most part, been ignored. That changed, however, in 1994. Faced with falling river levels and mounting development pressure, the three basin states formed the Permanent Okavango River Basin Commission, OKACOM, with the purpose of promoting sustainable management of the river basin through the development and implementation of a comprehensive basin-wide management plan. Every river has its people was set up to put those plans into practice. It had two aims: to build the capacity of the communities to manage river resources and to facilitate their participation in basin planning and management processes.
The Every River project is a unique initiative, the first of its kind in the world, because it's looking into the management of shared river basins from a participatory perspective.
The project is managed in each of the three countries by the Association for Environment Conservation and Integrated Rural Development in Angola, the Kalahari Conservation Society in Botswana, and the Namibia Nature Foundation in Namibia. Funding for the project came from the Swedish International Development Agency, SIDA, under its Regional Water Resources Management Program.
We see it as a way of promoting cooperation between countries, and through cooperation come economic benefits, social benefits, and a lot of other benefits that come with people collaborating on managing that resource.
The Swedes and SIDA, Scandinavia on the whole, have always been forward-looking. You know, they have looked at long-lasting development projects, projects that have very long-lasting results. And this is one example where they've put in nearly $3 million towards this project. And the KCS and the neighboring organizations, and I presume the governments, are very thankful. And we hope that they will continue to support projects like this.
Shared river management, however, presented challenges. The ecosystems in the basin transcended national boundaries. Upstream activities affected the health of the basin downstream. Decisions made outside the basin could impact on the basin. It was essential, therefore, that if the Every River project was to work, it had to have an effective operational structure. The project's regional manager, Monty Monchiwa, explains how it works.
What we have is we have the project facilitators, where we have all the countries represented. And then we have the regional project manager, who then takes the decisions that are made here to the national coordinators. And the national coordinators, they work with the outreach staff for each country, and they link with the Basin-wide Forum. The Basin-wide Forum is basically a group of community members from each of the countries who normally come once or twice in a year to discuss, to share their experiences. And from the Basin-wide Forum, there are also country representatives who then takes the message, who link with the communities on a daily basis.
It would be some time, however, before the project could get started in Angola. Decades of civil war had left their legacy. Cities devastated, the infrastructure shattered, the countryside littered with landmines. And there were problems with the river itself, problems that persist today.
Water pollution is too high. It has become too high, especially on the river that passes through the city, Cubango River. And we don't have yet the system of water taps in the city. So most of the population in the city, they depend on the river, taken directly from the river. And it's the river that they use also for washing, for feeding animals, for everything.
Former project manager Felix Monkai recalls that the problem in Angola was just one of the many they had to overcome.
And one of the challenges, yes, was that we as the NGOs, even in Botswana and Namibia, we had not worked together before, and we had to find ways of understanding and accommodating each other's interests, and even just the way we work. That was a challenge in itself. Another challenge was that of the language.
12 different tribes live along the Okavango. Every river had to be able to talk to all of them. Each country had its own priorities. Their perspectives of the uses and value of the river were different. Angola is rich in water. Namibia and Botswana have little. Angolans use the river for farming, drinking, and washing. Namibians use it for fishing, watering livestock, irrigation projects, and the city of Rundu's water supply. Botswana uses it for tourism and building materials. Reaching a consensus was going to be a major challenge. And there were others.
One of the challenges, yes, was that there were so many projects already being undertaken on the Okavango River Basin itself. And, communities had been really researched before, and we had to really find a strategy of getting the information from communities who were fed up with the kind of research that had been ongoing there.
Getting that information was critical. Communities in all three countries had to be able to voice their concerns in the knowledge their voices would be heard. Each had to understand and accept the needs and concerns of the others. All had to be convinced it was in their joint interests to manage the river and its resources in a sustainable way. Fish are an important factor in the lives of the river people. What they don't eat, they sell. While fishing methods have changed little in Angola and Namibia, in Botswana, the government has promoted commercial fishing with subsidized powerboats. Because of the low nutrient levels, there are fewer fish than in most freshwater wetlands. Most farmers rely on livestock for their livelihoods. Because of the sandy soil, low nutrient levels and poor water retention, the emphasis is on small-scale crop farming. Additional products include baskets, wooden crafts, firewood, and thatching grass. Thousands of other Delta residents earn their living in the growing ecotourism industry. The huge concentrations of wildlife in one of nature's most beautiful wild places makes this a favorite destination for wealthy foreign tourists. The first phase of the Every River project involved extensive surveys by project staff in Namibia and Botswana, in partnership with the communities, local and regional authorities, government ministries, and NGOs. The purpose of these surveys was to exchange information on ways of identifying and addressing the root causes of environment and socio-economic problems. This phase laid the groundwork for the entire project to meet both the capacity building and participation objectives. Encouraged by Every River's success, the 35 traditional authorities in the three countries decided to set up the basin-wide forum to build cooperation among their communities and the Every River project.
And it is these kinds of projects that are going back and realizing that in order for people, for the environment to survive, we need to realize that the borders are artificial and that people need to cooperate in order to save the environment and its nature.
É muito importante a cooperação regional. É muito importante para nós, muito mais o país que viveu em guerra, e quando vai ter esses contactos com os outros, vai acelerar o desenvolvimento de Angola.
We know each other, we plan together, we share ideas together to build a strong cooperation with each other, with our neighbor countries.
And there are other linkages. The Okavango Delta Management Plan is a Botswana government initiative that brings together all sectors responsible for natural resource management in the Okavango Delta so they can pool their resources, avoid duplication, and achieve greater cooperation and collaboration. Again, the key to this plan's success will be the feedback it gets from those who use the river.
The people themselves, what are the issues that worry them most? How can they propose measures to ameliorate any negative effects from whatever programs that are running, even those which are running at their village level, such as the village development committees? All of it should contribute to the long-term sustainable development of the Delta.
Developing shared agendas and objectives is a key component of joint river management. Generating and sharing information is another.
We've been able to create some data that can be used by the practitioners, experts, communities in the basin in terms of what can be found on the Okavango River Basin system itself.
Hannelore Benson is a University of Botswana researcher based at the Harry Oppenheimer Okavango Research Center in Maun.
We were given access kindly by KCS to the raw data to analyze it further and to analyze it in more detail in combination with additional fieldwork we have been doing.
That fieldwork targeted communities in the Delta, which were asked to identify the needs, problems and issues they felt needed to be addressed by management. High on the list was the animal tourists most wanted to see. Trouble was, the elephants kept breaking out of the wildlife management area into the communal lands, destroying crops and the vegetation on which the villagers depended for their livelihood. The elephants were also constantly breaking down the surrounding buffalo fence, allowing cattle to stray into the delta, which then had to be shot because of foot and mouth regulations.
Two other issues which were brought up by communities and I think were discovered by our surveys and also by the Every River project is that people would like to have a greater stake in the tourism sector, a greater stake in terms of the benefit from the tourism sector. They would like to get more involved themselves in running tourism enterprises.
Fishing was another issue. Traditional commercial fishermen and recreational fishermen, for the most part tourists, were competing for the same fishing grounds. The hydrology of the delta was also changing, part of a 17-year cycle. Erratic rainfall, high evaporation rates, and persistent droughts were contributing to the diminishing water resources. For some communities, the effects have been devastating. In some instances, the water has stopped flowing because the channels became blocked, the result of natural causes or pressures on the ecosystem. Either way, the life of the whole system is threatened, and along with it, the lives of the people. In Namibia, every river operates out of the NNF office in Rundu. But today, the office is empty. Outreach Officer Dorothy Wamnyima is away visiting friends. This is not a special occasion. This is a routine weekly meeting. But the warmth of her welcome is proof of the positive impact the outreach program has had among the river communities. This village is in one of the many conservancies set up by communal and commercial farmers to jointly manage and utilize wildlife and create income-generating activities. They are planning to build a tourist campsite.
Here is where our camping site started, and we are planning to put some tents here. And over there is where we are going to have some fish ponds. As you can see that there is some lakes already and the water is flowing. And then somewhere here we are planning to build the community hall. So we planned also to have an office somewhere at the back of the community hall.
Every river project helps to reduce the pressure from the river so that the communities can utilize wildlife and other natural resources within the boundaries of the conservancy and not only rely on the river for their livelihoods.
Joseph Hamwere is from another conservancy where the villagers are being encouraged to start a fish farming project.
Dogoropa pangesi kenya pakutu dingura wature gongi nokutu fatuira awa vantu vamwe vakere ngweva kukuta vakpira kuzuba kutanta ningesi vantu na venye yava manguru kirenye kwa kundindira sezuwa kengai vareka nomu vatu tantere hena si kapisi evangolirike turapo nomberewa turapo evangolio kurara hambara ininke na inye vaitu fatuira mwa utuptuatara.
Chief Kea Lempade is one of Botswana's representatives on the Basin-wide Forum. He is acutely aware of the importance of the river to the Shakawe rural community for which he is responsible. So it's hardly surprising he is a very active supporter of the Every River project.
Rona ka kwane re bitsa ke garden ya rona ke tshingwana ya rona ka gore mo moso mongwe le mongwe re a teng re a go bata se shabo se tshwana le bo dithapi ra go bata di fruits tse mo go tshwana le bo tshwi ra go bata le thaka le ra ga ka lone manto go ja jo re rulelang ka jone sengwe le sengwe re se tsaya mo nokeng e ke botshelo jwa rona.
Almost half the people in the Okavango Basin are children. Aware of their importance to the long-term success of its project, Every River initiated a competition among schools in Botswana and Namibia, which were asked to develop small projects, Parents were encouraged to also take part. MOHEMBO Primary School is one of 6 singled out for funding to implement its conservation project. As environmental education is not adequately resourced in primary schools, the Every River program fulfilled an important social function.
We had that idea before, but we had no one to help us come up with concrete ideas on how to develop it. But we were so blessed by the Every River people to come here and give us morale on how to do it and all the support.
Pride of place in the school's little nature reserve is a pond built by the pupils and their parents and stocked with fish caught in the river.
It takes the shape of the river. It meanders as you look at it. That's where we got the shape, to bring the river here to the school so that pupils understand how it was built or how the river is like from where it starts.
Every River's outreach staff don't always find themselves working in distant villages. This river channel is in Maun, Botswana's northern town on the southern edge of the delta. The problem here is one all too common in more heavily populated communities.
This is one type of litter that ERP is actually trying to address. That is probably coming up from one of the picnic areas closer to the river.
ERP is helping us to clean these dirty things along the river. Because our department is pumping water from the river to give people to drink it. So we don't want these dirty tins and bottles along the river.
On the other side of town, a road sign advertises another of the many tourist lodges in Maun. But this lodge and its owner are different. This is the first indigenous operation of its kind in northern Botswana.
So how is the BNB? The BNB is getting so busy.
From the ground up, Discovery Lodge was built from local materials, some of them from the river.
About the material, they'll take a fence here in Maun from the local people around who go up towards the up river to collect the reeds from there and they sell it here in Maun. Got some beautiful Botswana basket inside and we sell those to the tourists. And these are made by local ladies around here who came here and I couldn't offer them any job. So I said to them, okay, why don't you go and make me baskets? And that's how it started. She came back and from now onwards we get more and more baskets from them. We are trying to manage the resources, but as well trying to see how these resources they can be of benefit to the people as well.
Love More Sola is a biodiversity corridor manager with Conservation International, a Washington-based NGO which has been a key stakeholder in the project from its start. He is also the reference group chairperson in Botswana and says one of the issues to emerge from phase 1 has been HIV and AIDS.
The reason why it's coming up is because if you look at society, there's no way now you can talk of development in whatever manner without talking about AIDS, because it's a cross-cutting issue. You find that as people become affected by AIDS, it means that even their way of utilizing the resources also changes.
The Every River project has now at least made its mark. Having run at least for the first phase and it ended, we are now in the second phase. We have managed to build both the vertical and the horizontal linkages. Vertical in that we are working with governments and we are dealing with a project which is transboundary. Horizontal in that communities tend to be the people who are using the resources. So that is one key thing that the Every River has achieved so far, and it's being projected into the second phase.
We have produced a booklet called The Best Practice and Approaches for Promoting Shared River Basin Management, which can be a tool to other basins to see how we approach the whole thing. This is a document that can really be used to share experiences with other basins.
The Okavango has been called a lifeline. Today, it's more than that. The river has become a bridge of communication and cooperation, linking countries and communities previously distanced by misconceptions and mistrust.
We can see a lot of more friendship among the countries. Angola, Namibia, Botswana. When we started it, we were a little bit apart, but now I can tell you we talk like one unit because of the agreement, OKACOM, and more importantly, what Every River has been doing with the communities themselves.
The most impressive result I saw from Every River project was when all the representatives of communities in Botswana, Namibia and Angola were talking together. And so this kind of false idea of blaming always the upstream neighbor could be clarified. And people saw that the neighbor countries, for example, Botswana, all of a sudden the community representatives saw how poor and under what difficult conditions the Angolans are at the moment resettling, and how, you know, that they also need water. They realized the need of the neighbor.
Agora estamos com a experiência, estamos a conseguir agora que a nossa população ganha aquela educação, a educação ambiental, cuidar dos animais, cuidar dos seus recursos hídricos também, em todos os aspectos. Então, esse projeto está a ser muito importante nesta área.
This program, the Every River Has Its People, has been a very important step in the realization that most of the natural resources, such as rivers, are shared between nations, and that a lot of people depend on them for survival.
The project has achieved all the set goals, the initially set goals, and it's now a living example that other river basins should copy.
This then is the story of the Okavango River and its people. The story of a shared desire and commitment by 3 countries and their peoples to protect and preserve one of the most unique wetlands on Earth. It is also the story of the unique project that is helping to bring that change about.